Today we're going to learn how to draw watercolor and colored pencil candy hearts. We're going to begin with a good reference image and a sketch. Before getting started, you want to practice layering your materials. You can find all of the worksheets, materials, slideshow, video demonstration, rubric, and everything you need linked below or on my website at insideoutartteacher.com. I like layering either marker or watercolor under colored pencil with my beginners just because it really speeds things up a little bit. So you see I have a piece of practice paper and I'm keeping my color lighter than the actual reference image. So I'm carefully observing the reference image and I'm mixing up a color that is lighter than what is in the image. So to get my shadows, I am mixing a little bit of the color's complement, or its opposite color, the color opposite on the color wheel. So in this case, the opposite of yellow is purple. So I added just a tiny bit of purple to get that lower intensity, kind of shadowy looking yellow color. So the watercolor, you want to apply in layers and kind of let it dry a little bit in between. So you may have to be just a little bit patient. But always test your colors. See how I'm looking back and forth at my reference image. I have that scrap piece of practice paper next to me and I'm testing out my colors there. I'm also always very cautious to keep everything lighter than it actually is, because you can always layer your watercolor and go darker, but it's very challenging to go lighter. So I'm testing out all of my colors and I'm not getting too upset that it's not so perfect. I'm not trying to get it perfect. Once I layer the colored pencil over the top of my watercolor, then I'm going to be able to get some more detail and maybe like some crisper edges and kind of refine the drawing a little bit. So right now I'm really just trying to get that base color down. I'm kind of making like an underpainting. So you could see I'm comparing my reference image to my practice, just trying to get my values kind of similar. So now here what I'm doing is I decided to tape out a border and add just a tiny bit of a little bit of a super light wash, just to give the drawing a little bit of interest. So here I mixed up some more shadowy colors and I am just getting a little bit more of those shadow tones in there. And now the super fun part, I let it dry and I took off the tape. So now comes the colored pencil. So I'm comparing my values to my value scale, and I've already practiced these colors with my colored pencils, but in that practice there, I happen to have layered marker underneath, which you can also do as well. When you're practicing with colored pencil, it's a great idea always to practice first and see which colors you want to layer. So now to build up my darker values here, I'm layering cooler, darker colors because this is my darkest dark here. These shadows, there's a lot of contrast there between the edge of the candy and the shadow, the cast shadow on the paper. So I'm layering cooler tones. So just like I said before, I mix the colors complement. I mix a little bit of violet with the yellow to get that shadow tone. Now I'm just layering some lighter violets with my yellow and also with my pink to get some of those darker tones underneath. So it looks like I'm going really fast, but I'm using a nice sharp point and I'm really taking my time. I'm not pressing hard. The trick to colored pencil is really not pressing hard at all, going really slow with super light pressure and a lot of layers, but letting the color do the work for you. So here I see a little bit more of like an intense shadow. So I'm using a super light blue. So to get those shadows, you can use a little bit of your color's opposite and also some cooler darks. I didn't want to go too dark here because that shadow isn't quite as dark as the cast shadow, but it is a darker yellow. So now I'm layering my yellow. You could see whenever whatever it is you're drawing is casting a shadow on the surface that it's sitting on, you're going to see a little bit of that color reflecting. So you see a lot of that yellow really coming through. So I was just layering a little bit of yellow in with my cast shadow. And now I'm kind of just playing around, and you can have your students kind of experiment with their backgrounds here and just playing around with how the light kind of reflects and how the colors kind of bounce off of the surface, and really just practicing seeing how much pressure I need. I'm really looking at my edges. Students will want to get a really hard, crisp edge there, but I definitely always push them just a little to really look closely at that edge where that cast shadow is and get it to fade. But that's it. Have fun with this.